Hey everybody, it's John King. It is Friday, the 29th of March. Good Friday. Happy Easter weekend to everybody. Wanted to introduce you to my weekly market update. So every single week I'm coming to you on Friday mornings with an update on what's happening with the market and things you should be thinking about. And so there's some important things that are happening that I want to update you on. The first thing I want to talk about is actually an update on what's happening with the changes in real estate when it comes to the National Association of Realtors settlement that came out 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of concern about how this is going to be handled in the lending world. There's a lot of concern about are we going to allow the seller to still pay for the buyer's agent's commission? And is that going to count towards the maximum that buyers are allowed to get in closing cost credits? And there's questions about different loan programs to say, is the buyer even allowed to pay their own real estate agent's commission if that ends up being negotiated that the seller's not going to pay for it? Well, there's lots of lobbying going on right now with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and FHA and VA. VA is the big one that everybody is worried about because VA specifically says that a buyer cannot pay their own real estate agent's commission. So with VA, we're in trouble if nothing changes in the rules and the seller isn't willing to pay the commission of the buyer's agent. VA's got a big problem right now. With every other loan program, the buyer is technically allowed to pay their commission, but pay their buyer's agent's commission. But there's a couple of concerns about will that count towards the maximum that a buyer is allowed to get in closing cost credits. FHA is the first one to respond. FHA came out yesterday and they said, hey, you can rest assured that if the seller pays the buyer's agent's commission like they do today, it's not going to count towards the cap of how much money is allowed to be credited towards closing costs, because FHA says as long as it's customary that the seller pays for the buyer's agent's commission, it's not considered a contribution or a concession to the buyer. So that's really, really good news. That doesn't address the fact of when the buyer does pay their own commission, does that count towards the maximum that a buyer is allowed to spend in fees on their financing? Because there's federal limits called federal high cost rules that say you can only spend a certain percentage of your purchase price in fees, because otherwise, actually in a lot of cases, it's the percentage of your loan amount in fees. Otherwise, it's considered to be usury, considered to be high cost, or the lending world taking advantage of the buyer by charging too much in fees. But it's not just lender fees. The rules require that I count appraisal fees and title companies' fees. All these third-party fees count towards the grand total that we're allowed to have the buyer spend, or it triggers the high cost rules. And with high cost comes extra regulation. And a lot of loan programs don't play well with that extra regulation. And they say, I'm out. I'm not going to allow this loan to fund if you are exceeding the high cost barrier. Well, what if the real estate agent, the buyer's agent's commission that the buyer chooses and happily pays out of their pocket, what if it counts towards that threshold? That's something we got to be worried about and thinking about going forward. Nothing we can do to change it today, but these are all of the unintended consequences and implications that need to be played out over time. All right, let's do some quick updates. So first of all, what happened with rates this week? They did okay. Like rates, I'm happy with rates. Good job, rates. Pat on the back. Okay, we're in the high sixes. That's better than being in the sevens. Way better than being in the eights. Not as good as being in the fives. There, you had your lesson on the number line. 5 is smaller than 6, which is smaller than 7. By the way, why is 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. There's my joke of the day. All right, I just lost half of my viewers right there. Anyway, next month, specifically next Friday, is the jobs report. That jobs report, it was a major problem in February. March did not really help us that much. And so if April shows a lot of jobs growth, that's going to be 3 months in a row that's going to confirm the pattern. And that's what the Fed is afraid of, is the more jobs people have, the more income they have, the more they're going to spend on things. And therefore, it's going to continue inflation going up. So next Friday is going to be a big one. Next week itself, we're going to see where things end up after the first, the end of the quarter has some weird dynamics where traders, which trade mortgage bonds and treasury bonds and stocks, they have to reset their allocations today. And today's a short trading day because it's Good Friday. Actually, I think yesterday was a short trading day. I think it closed today. Anyway, the end of the month, regardless, and the end of the quarter, there's a lot of movement and selling of this bond and buying of this bond to meet their allocations that are required. And then on Monday, they undo it all. They say, yeah, I didn't really want to own that. I just had to own it in that allocation. I had to have a certain percentage of our holdings in bonds versus stocks. And we had to do it at the end of the quarter because that's when the numbers are reported. And then on Monday, they'll undo that trade. They'll sell what they bought on the last day of the quarter, and they'll buy back what they really want to buy. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics that happen at the end of a quarter. So just be aware the rate market's going to be bumpy next week, especially when it comes to specifically Friday and the jobs report. All right, second thing I want to talk about, Dream for All. If you are in the state of California, especially if you are a realtor or a first generation home buyer, the Dream for All program registration portal opens Wednesday morning, the 4th. The 4th? The 3rd. Wednesday, the 3rd. So it opens at 8 a.m. Do not rush to be the first person in there. There is no need. There's no priority because you were the first one in. Don't wait until the last minute. You have until Monday, April 29th at 5 p.m. And then it turns into a pumpkin. If you are not done and have not uploaded everything, you're in trouble. Now, if you have questions about how the program works, right up here is my QR code. Download my ebook. It gives you everything you need to know from start to finish. I've got some good videos on my YouTube channel. You're probably already watching it on YouTube or on one of my other social media outlets. But the actual book gives you real specific chapters. You can jump to a chapter in the ebook and see how the rules work and how they apply to you. What are the pros and cons of the program? So if you haven't got my ebook already, go ahead and click the QR code above and get a copy of that ebook. Now, on Wednesday, I am going to log into the reservation portal and I'm going to start walking my way through it as if I was a buyer, and I'm going to record it. So watch for that recording so I can give you some feedback on what I see the portal asking for so that you as a buyer can be prepared. You don't need to jump in on Wednesday, but you'll want to do it in the next week or so. And if you haven't started the process of getting pre-approved, now is the time to start that process. All right, F Sharp, welcome back. How does changing jobs affect the home buying process, specifically the Dream for All process? Great question. Dream for All is not, well, Dream for All is unique in this regard because Dream for All, you actually can make too much money. So what I'm about to describe applies to all loan programs, but in most cases, if your income goes up, that's a good thing for every program except Dream for All. So when you're changing jobs, we have to look at your new job and determine two things. A, is it similar enough in the type of work that you are doing? Doesn't mean it has to be the same job, doesn't even mean it has to be in the same industry. But if you're going from being an engineer to being a mortgage loan officer, well, this is more of a sales job. Like this is more of, I got to go find the business and I'm on commission, which brings up the second component. That's the more important component, which is the nature of your pay. There is either stable pay or variable pay. If you're going from stable pay previously to stable pay on the new job, no big deal. As long as we can predict what is your salary every single week or month, what is your hourly wage and how many hours are you working, but it would need to be full-time. If you're switching to a part-time job, that's a concern because part-time by nature is variable and we don't have a history of knowing how often your employer is going to give you hours. Even if they say we're going to always give you around 20 hours, we got to have a guarantee. But for most people, to simplify your question, most people simply need to be able to prove that we can predict the future of your earnings. And obviously, you have to be able to qualify based on that future earnings. If your new pay is variable, and it's in the same industry as you were in before, there's a good chance I can continue using the variable pay. But let me give you an example. If you were a car salesman selling Volkswagens, and then you switch to car salesman selling Ferraris, you're not going to make the same amount of money selling Ferraris. Now, you might say, I'm going to make more money, but I think fewer people buy Ferraris. And so we don't know, maybe you make 3 times as much money per Ferrari sale, but you're only selling a tenth the number of Ferraris. So we don't know how to calculate that variable pay. So I hope that makes sense. If you have further follow-up questions, let me know, but hopefully that kind of helped give you an answer to that question. All right, so Dream for All portal opening up. I'm going to give you a recording next week on Wednesday on what that's going to look like. I have a lot of people asking me, John, what paperwork do we need to enter into the portal? We don't know. We know that you're going to have to prove your current address and where you're living. We know that you're going to have to prove where you're, or give them the address of where your parents live or your parents' death certificates if they've passed away. We don't know a whole bunch else. And so it's really undetermined, and we're going to get a better feel as more of my clients get logged in there and we get some feedback, and I'm providing that as I can. As a reminder, every Monday night for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be hosting a 1-hour webinar from 7 to 8 p.m. and it's going to be specifically on the Dream for All program. The last thing I want to talk about, I just did a video. I didn't publish it yet. It'll be published this afternoon, but it talks about a brand new program that we've got that specifically focuses on independent contractors. Now, I'm not going to explain to you the whole program. You're going to have to find that video. But if you or someone you know have at least 10% for a down payment, so this is not part of Dream for All, you have at least 10% for a down payment, you have at least a 680 credit score, and you're an independent contractor paid on a 1099. I don't need your tax returns anymore. I can use, now if you have tax returns, you're better off because you get better terms, you get better interest rates. But if you don't have tax returns, most people are waiting and not buying a home, or they're waiting to file their taxes and pay more in taxes to the IRS. But my program will let you use 90% of the income you get on your 1099. So if you drive for Uber as your primary or second job, or Instacart, or if you are a real estate agent, or if you are in any industry where you as an individual are paid as an independent contractor from somebody else's business, this program is a game changer because you don't have to file taxes showing a bunch of profit. You can continue filing taxes the way you are, and as long as you have at least a 680 credit score with 10% down, you can qualify to purchase a home. You can use this to refinance a home. Amazing options and opportunities. All right, gang, that is everything I have for you today. I really appreciate you listening. Hope everybody has a wonderful Easter weekend. Happy Good Friday. And we will talk to you all Monday night for the Dream for All webinar. Wednesday, I'll be doing a video about the portal and what it looks like. And then next Friday, you'll see me here again, where I'm going to be giving you another update, including what's going on with the jobs report and where interest rates have gone. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend. Happy Easter. Bye-bye.